Here's my honest review of Black Adam. Someone greenlit this story. They greenlit the script. The script went to set. They greenlit somebody to say it. They listened to the lines and said, that sounds good. Put it on camera, and we watched it. That's how bad that movie was to me. This is Epic Thoughts. Even my guest was like, yeah, nah, fam. That movie was bad. It was a bad movie, man.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Epic Thoughts. I'm your host, Ramon, president of Heritage Park Production, and now director of Hope Recovery Center and Hope Media Studios. And we out here, we doing our thing. And today I have a great show for you. I have a really special guest for you, man. This is my friend, man. I'm glad he came today because we met one time. We met one time.
Yes, we did.
And haven't talked since that time. Maybe a couple of weeks ago. I DM'd him. I was like, yo, man, let's talk. Let's rap.
Right.
And the circumstances of our first encounter was a music video.
That's right. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
That was a fun time. And he's just a really cool guy. He's a filmmaker, writer, and he's working on a project that we have to talk about. And it's poignant to talk about in this day and age.
Absolutely.
The film is called Learning to Die.
Dying to Learn.
Dying to Learn. I was gonna mess it up. Dang it. The movie's
No,
called Dying to Learn. And it's getting a lot of buzz, a lot of energy. He's won some awards. He'll explain it to you. But special guest today, Mr. Leroy Barrett. Thank you for being on my show today.
Thank you for having me, Roman.
Push the mic a little bit to you.
All right. Let's get in here.
There you go.
There we go. All right.
So this movie, first of all, before we talk about the movie, let's show a clip.
Okay, let's do it.
We got a trailer. We're gonna show the trailer of the film. This is Dying to Learn.
Right on.
Got it. All right. This is
my crush is very real.
Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Bubble gum in a dish. I'll trade you my bubble gum for just 1 kiss. Hello.
Bubble gum.
Is everything okay, Billy?
Your laptop, Billy. Buddy. What you got?
You what, Tom?
You don't have to brave anything alone. The offer's always open.
Move! Hey, stop it! Stop it! What the hell?
Okay. Leave that dude alone, man. You better get out my way, Fabian.
Or what, man? You gonna swing on me too?
You don't have to be cruel to kick it, Mr. Vicious. They all act like they like you. Nobody likes an asshole. Get your mind right.
Thanks, snitches.
Crazy.
You don't know it's him.
Man, I ain't ready to die.
man. I saw the trailer before.
Yeah.
On social media, but watching it now and knowing the heart of the film.
Yeah.
And what you're doing, I connected immediately to one of the storylines.
Yeah.
When the student had a teacher tell him that nobody like you.
Right.
I had a situation when I was younger in school where there was kids that were messing with me.
Yeah.
And my mom and my dad came to the school and was like, hey, he's having a problem. These kids are bullying him. And the teacher was like, well, he thinks he's funny and he's not that funny. And he gets on people's nerves and just left it like that.
Wow.
And 2 days later, they bullied me more. And I was in one of those classrooms where it was a small school. So it was 3rd grade to 8th grade.
Yeah.
I was a 3rd grader. and they were bullying me. They were pushing me around. My dad's a boxer, so he's street minded.
Right. Right.
And one day they chipped my tooth.
What?
My dad said, "You gotta do what you gotta do, man."
Absolutely.
So I went to school the next day, and I beat up half the school with a brick.
I
I did.
That's one way to fix the bullying.
Yeah, I mean, I got kicked out.
Yeah.
I got kicked out because I was violent.
Right.
But my parents were like, we went to the school. It was a private school.
Yeah.
So they were paying their money
Of course.
for me to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kicked out.
Nah, I'm from Detroit. I'm from the west side of Detroit.
Okay.
And if anybody in your audience is from Detroit, I'm from Joy Road on the west side.
Okay.
They already know what that means, right?
Mhm.
And what kids call bullying now, I don't quite identify with.
Yeah.
Because it was so omnipresent in life that you kind of joined it, and so it wasn't an overarching reality. It's kind of hard to describe that.
Yeah.
I didn't know until the kids in my neighborhood told me that my nose was big as Texas, right? Like Toucan Sam, right?
Right.
But that's the level of living. We talked about each other all the time.
Yeah.
And you just got the skin where you laughed at it and cracked a joke that you
Yeah.
thought was funnier about them,
Yeah.
right?
You shot back.
But most importantly, we know in the hood, the number one rule of bullies is you got to punch a bully in the mouth. I'm
Mhm.
sorry. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
These rules that we have for that, they kind of perpetuate the problem. Well, all
Mhm.
right, somebody bully you, go tell. Well, that's just going to get you more bullied. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you talk about.
Yeah.
This is going to get you bullied more. You're going to have to bully him back, tell him that him or her that this isn't where you want to get what you're going for.
Yeah.
And they'll go somewhere else. That's just what the rule is.
That's what the rule
Because
is.
otherwise, when you go telling, oh yeah, you the one I want to bully. So tomorrow, instead of just taking your dessert, I'm gonna take all your
All
lunch
of it.
money.
All of
Right?
it, yeah.
Yeah. And we have to figure out what works versus what we think sounds like is virtuous.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Because in this world, it's a human world, and we all figure out through the cycle of life, through our experiences, how to handle things.
Mhm.
And some of that is about having that tougher skin, figuring out how to handle your thing. That's what your father said.
Yeah.
My kids, in one instance, my daughter, three of my kids were in school at the same time: the kindergarten, first grade, and third grade.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
And the third grader was my daughter, and this guy liked her. So it's third grade. What are you gonna do? You're gonna push on her, tap her,
Yeah.
or something? Yeah, it's just what you do.
Yeah.
But my sons didn't see that. They saw him do something physical. They didn't like it.
Oh,
They
yeah.
beat him up. Right.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to let you know my kids had Cold Stone that day.
Mhm.
You protect your sister.
Right.
Whatever the school's rules are, all right, y'all got to do what y'all got to do.
Yeah.
But as a parent, I got to do what I got to do. My sons protected her because that's what they saw. They both got Cold Stone that day because
Yeah.
that's what you do for your sister. Nobody
protect
comes
your
for her
sister.
twice,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm not some authoritarian. I'm certainly not violence. I don't think it solves anything, but I still got to realize that some people don't see what I see.
Yeah.
And those people who don't see what you see, sometimes you got to get a message on a level they understand.
Yes.
Right. Certainly don't bring that at me and I'm just gonna take it.
Yeah.
That doesn't work in this world. It just doesn't.
No.
So I don't think violence is a plus for anybody or any situation. You still got to see what's real. So
Mhm.
that's my little spiel on the bullying.
Yeah,
thing.
the bullying thing.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this movie
Yeah, absolutely.
because it's so much with it. So
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
So when did the movie get birthed in your heart, and what was it that caused it to be birthed?
Ramon. It was 2019.
Okay.
And man, that was a rough season. That whole year, every 2 or 3 weeks, it seemed, and I mean like clockwork. Every 2-3 weeks, there was a mass school shooting aftermath on TV.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
You got all these kids that are dead, or in some of the cases, there were teachers also dead, but an
Yeah.
entire community terrorized, which ultimately turns into our entire country
Yes.
mortified.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And our continued response, every one of those cases, thoughts and prayers, of course,
Mhm.
that was the action,
Yeah.
thoughts and prayers. But we blame it on these 3 talking points
Mhm.
and the repetition of them. Bullying, which is someone's fault other than the kid who did the shooting.
Yeah.
So there's no accountability there.
Mm.
It was guns, which certainly isn't the kid's fault. In fact, it's nobody's fault. Guns in general, that's a thing. So
Yeah.
there's no person to blame for that. And lastly, if it said anything about the kid the murderer who did the killing, the terrorist who did the killing, they'd say, well, maybe it's some mental health issues, which isn't really a responsibility for that kid either.
Yeah.
And then we got another shooting.
Yeah.
Thoughts and prayers, another shooting. Thoughts and prayers, another shooting. Thoughts and prayers, another shooting. This happened all year long.
Mhm.
Erstwhile, I've got 2 kids still in school at the time. It didn't take that though. That's irrelevant to me. It is human life that was being taken. Needless. The phrase, every time I say it, everything wells up in me. The phrase that kids are being murdered in schools should stop everyone in their tracks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And that this happened over and over and over, and we kept doing the same thing. I just happen to know the definition of insanity, Ramon.
Yeah.
And it is doing the same thing, expecting different results.
Yeah.
Why are we just repeating these talking points? It just got to me. And so I wrote this thing. I have some acting students, and we had a thing where I was teaching them how to actually film. So instead of teaching them just the acting from a distance, I put them in productions, record them, let them see themselves, all that good old stuff.
That's cool.
And so that's what I was going to do with this until we read it. And the stuff kept happening, right? The killings kept happening. The massacres kept happening. The terrorism kept happening. And then we read it. We read it in a table read, and we realized this is too big for us to shoot on iPhones.
Wow.
And so we moved to the next level with it, and it's become 20 award-winning film that it is right now.
Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the future for it right now?
Well, the film that we have is a short. It's a
Yes.
39-minute short, which means it's barely a short.
Yeah.
Actually,
Isn't it 45?
that's right. That's
Okay.
exactly right.
Uh-huh.
That's because of animations, but still 45 minutes is a feature film.
Okay.
So we're like away from being a feature film.
Wow.
And it's because there's so much, there's so many factors that go into this problem. And that's the reason why I wrote it.
Yeah.
Because it's not just those three, it's so many more. But right now we have the short, and we have a screening December 10th at the Rooftop Cinema Club at downtown San Diego on top of the Manchester Grand Hyatt, Saturday, December 10th, right?
Yeah.
Beyond that, right now we're entering the film. We won the 20 awards with just the script.
Wow.
Around the world. Like 6 of those are in America, the rest are around the planet. We're entering the short into festivals right now. This is festival season.
Yeah.
So we're entering them in Oscar-worthy competitions. So hopefully we can get that attention and get distribution. Erstwhile, we're in the process of filming the feature right now. I've written the feature out. It's going to be a little bit of a lengthy film.
Yeah.
But it's marvelous. It's powerful. It's powerful. And candidly, I'm kind of humble. I wouldn't say I wrote such a marvelous film that it got awards because I'm an awesome writer. I'm fantastic. I do this thing. That's not where I'm at.
Right.
I think literally it is the bravery of facing it that our country is loath to do that make that film win so many, the script win so many awards. And I think seeing it will be even more so because we didn't cut corners. We didn't make it nice. We didn't play Hollywood. I didn't, I'm not writing it out so you can feel the way Hollywood wants you to go through. No.
Yeah.
And it's not going to end off beautifully because none of these things end beautifully. There'll be a disrespect to everybody who's still suffering losses.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that terror, right? It'd be a disrespect to them to play Hollywood with it. So I think we should do pretty well there. The film, the feature is more of the same. We go deeper into each one of the kids' lives so we can show the multitude of variables that go into this, for lack of a better description, perfect storm, right? And it is a collage of the society we live in that caused the problem. And it's my frustration as to why we're not facing it.
Now, when you mentioned a little bit about this before we had the show today, and then you kind of made reference of the individual stories that are in this film.
Yeah.
And I've always told people, I think one of the biggest problems that we're dealing with in our country is that people don't have the time, or they just don't care to hear the individual stories.
Right.
Like, why do you feel this way? Why do you believe that thing? Why do you believe this narrative? What happened in your life that led you down this road for you processing that? And I've always been kind of like a person where I want to know, okay, so you're here in life. How did you get here?
Right.
What was your upbringing? What did your mama tell you? Did you have a mama? And have those conversations, because I don't like to have debates because it's pointless if I don't know where you came from.
Right. Right.
It's absolutely pointless. But if I could hear where you came from, I can go, oh, I understand why you believe that. And so I think that's something that is really important in this film, is seeing the individual stories in it.
That's why I'm going through all of them, or a multitude of them, like I am, because your disposition is empathetic.
Mhm.
You care about more than you.
Yeah.
Candidly, and in all reality, that is not our society. In
Mhm.
fact, we're not even driven to do that. While our social pressure is for you to fit in and be like everybody else,
Yeah.
it's also for you to excel of your own accord.
Mhm.
You win, not us, not we. The win-win is a long foregone conclusion. We're not even concerned about
Unfortunately, yeah.
my win and your win. Just
Unfortunately.
me,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And so while we have this driving force that I got to be number one, I have to do, I'll be, it doesn't concern itself. We don't thusly concern ourselves with what's going on with someone else, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we see this shooting or murder happening in Colorado, we live in California. Well, it's pretty far. I'm probably good.
Yeah.
Because we still have this narcissistic disposition. And as children, that's what we have first, right? It's the only understanding you have. You're you. That's all you got.
Yeah.
Right. As we mature, we try and take, hopefully, we take in more people, more perspectives, but it's not really happening.
Mhm.
So all we care about is us. And since it's not my neighborhood, I don't really have to be concerned until, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Sooner or later, if you let this thing keep running free, it will visit your door. That's what happens. And you'll be just like the people you saw on TV. I just couldn't believe this happened in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's because you didn't see it happening in other neighborhoods and have a problem with it to help stop it. Right.
Yes.
And I think that's part of the impetus that keeps this thing going. None of us truly engage it because the us that could engage it and make it make some progress on stopping it aren't the ones it's happening to. Right. While at the same time, of course, all of us in America are empowered. That's kind of part of that deal, too. We have to understand we do have power. We can move people. We are a democratic nation, democratically built nation. We can get enough people to make some noise to try and make a difference, make a change. Right.
Yes, right.
There are some ways to do that, but that's not what's happening. Sadly, with the exception of most largely the parents of the Sandy Hook kids, there hasn't been a large push of any sort from a group who suffered in one of these things. So the Sandy Hook families are fighting, right? There's a dad out there that just fights. He keeps fighting, right? But largely we'll take our wounds and we'll go away. And I see that, understand that. And that's why those of us who are watching it need to do something, because the ones who have suffered it, it's hard. I can imagine, and sadly, I don't want to, but I can imagine a parent struggling to get up if they lost their child. That's something I don't ever want to imagine. And the reason why I still fight now, I don't have school-age children. Well, my daughter in London, she's 18 and she's in college right now. So is Draco. But that's not my concern. My concern isn't because my kids are at jeopardy. It's because kids are in jeopardy. That whole premise is madness to me. And if we don't fight for it collectively, then the collective problem that causes it can't be remedied.
It's interesting you say that. Every time I take my kids to school, I walk them to school. I walk them in their class. I walk them wherever they gotta go. And I keep thinking to myself, should be the most innocent place in this world. Should be the most innocent place. My kids are 9. 9-year-old twins. And I'm like, I never thought I'd see the day where I'm fearful to drop them off.
It should be the sanctuary. That's why now still saying the words out loud that kids were murdered in school does something to me. It runs through me every time. It's just hard to grasp as a notion. That should be the safest safe haven America has. I think it's also one of the places where we can make the greatest dent in helping, because it is the one system that's consistent in American life. We all go to school. And it's a system, right? Now we don't all go to public school, but we do all go to school. And by and large, it's going to be public school. It's the place we can turn this thing around with the most access, right? We are not built in such a way that we can reach parents to fix it, right? That's just not real. And we can't enforce a change with parents. That's just not the way our society is built.
Extremely practical.
It's just not. But a school is a school is a school. We can put in some systems, and it can't be. I think one of the biggest frustrations I have as just a constituent in America, as an American, is that we often institute programs that aren't aimed at working. They're aimed at a political gain. I'm doing something.
Yes.
But you're not doing something to work.
Yeah.
You're not really getting the professionals or the people in the street who know how to make an effective change. You just put some money on it, said you made a change or did something to change, and you want to get reelected.
Yeah.
But to make real change, I don't think it's impossible. I'm call me crazy. I think we can change the entire system of schooling that we have in every regard, and it can make our society a safer, more beautiful place if we just apply some very simple things. But those simple things will have to uproot the entire system. But it's the one place we can make such an effort. We can have such an impact. And I think in every way that we have to make the effort to do that.
So with that being said, what is the conversation that we're not having that we should be having?
I think we aren't having one of them that we should. As in real talk, I don't think we're having one conversation that'll help a thing. The conversations we should have are about causes, period. And it's a really wide breadth of American life. You can start socioeconomically, right? You got a single parent, mom, dad, doesn't matter which one. They're struggling because, you know, wages are what they are. So you got 2 jobs or 3. You aren't anywhere near the house because you're trying to provide for your kid. This isn't you being negligent. This is you being lazy. This is a parent really trying to make it work for their kids. The math just isn't there. So your kids being raised by the internet and their stupid friends. And I don't mean internet. I said internet on purpose because when they're free to do what they want to do, they're gonna find the ignorant parts of things. It's just curiosity as kids, right? And that factors into what their contribution to society is. Now, this isn't even a neglect situation. This is survival. And it costs something, right? Unfortunately, you've got bad actors in the country. We are America is an experiment, right? Having the racial mix that we have has been a test from day one. It continues to be one. So you got some parents who will teach bad habits, bad traits, bad perspectives, right? Bad philosophies. And that plays into it. Guns, violence, period, is a problem in the country. Now, I'm a Marine, so I'm not against guns. That doesn't even make sense. To be against guns in its entirety, that doesn't make sense to me. But it does make sense to me that regular civilians don't need the greatest armaments they could find, right? They're not fighting a war. You have no business having a grenade launcher at your house. You have no business running around with an AR-15. As many times as it's been the weapon of choice for mass murders in schools, decency says, all right, we're going to get rid of that one. If we don't do anything else, get rid of that one. But that's not going to solve the problem. The problem is that someone wants to use a weapon to do what they've done. That's about a society that's driven on violence and sexuality. Sexuality has a large part to play. And the way I think that's so is because we have really young kids who are impressionable, who go through phases, every phase in their maturity process. And we all go through the loneliness phase. It's just what we do, right? And if you're lonely, but you've been oversexed, which you shouldn't be sexed at all, but you've been oversexed through media, and that gives you the thought that everybody else must be with someone else. Everybody else must be kissing somebody or whatever they're doing, but I'm not. So now I'm lonelier than I would have been anyway, with this pressure that my young mind can't calculate because it's not fully formed until I'm 25. I got this now pressure on me to be in a space that I can't be in and I'm not supposed to be in, and I don't have the ability to calculate out of that. So
that's feeling different now that I'm in that space and I'm not doing, but they're probably thinking that everyone else is doing it. Does that make them feel like an outcast? Does that add to it too?
Absolutely. And you know, that's exacerbated by our technological society now. When I was a kid, kids were in the streets. Going in the house was a punishment, a flat out punishment. Hated it.
I hated going to the house. I play all day.
The worst thing that existed in the neighborhood was a street light. Because when that came on, we had to go in the house.
It was done. Man. You're done for the day.
Right. But I lived in a neighborhood that was replete with children. Like when we played football, we had 11 men and we had subs. Like we had, and I'm not kidding. I'm serious and mug. When we got together and played hide and seek, 3 blocks got together. We had like 50 kids. It took us about 30 minutes to do bubble gum until somebody was it. And I'm not exaggerating. We would do that usually in the winter, during winter break, because when it snowed, I'm in Detroit. When it snowed, the moon would reflect on it, and it was really bright and lit. It was so many kids that we didn't even have a thought for somebody coming to take one of us. They'd have had to take 30, right? That's just what it was. But when you don't go outside, right? I can't remember the last time. I don't think in the 2000s, I've gone down the street where kids had to get out of my way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they were playing in the street, doing something, skateboarding or throwing a football or playing on a basketball hoop that's outside because we made those or bought them. Somebody's mama got one. Right.
Yeah. Put it right there at the driveway.
That's right. I haven't rode through one of those. I don't believe in the 2000s.
Wow.
Because these kids aren't outside. Right. They're inside. They've got friends, which is beautiful. They got friends all over the planet. They play some. Unfortunately, they've got kids in Japan or Finland or wherever it is all over the globe. And what they participate in together is some first-person shooter game where shooting somebody in the head gives you extra points, right? So not only are you disassociated from people, you don't have the physical contact that humanity engenders, right? You don't get the lessons of playing with other people to respect them, because if you call them a punk in their face, they're gonna punch you in the mouth, right? So now you could be a keyboard commando and say whatever you want, right? Not only do you have value for them because you had a pickup game of kickball and you on my team, so you doing better does better for me, so I understand the sense of community. They don't get those organic lessons. They're by themselves in a computer, and now they're lonely because they're physically not with anyone, even in general sense of social reaction, interaction, except for school, right? And so you don't develop a whole bunch of skills that you need. And you layer that with the violence perspective that's everywhere. It's in film. John Wick has a style of killing. You know what I'm saying? You got these video games that are violent. You got sex everywhere. You can't avoid it. If you look at TV at all, if one commercial doesn't have it, the next three will, right? You got all these pressures on you that you aren't ready for. And no one's directly preparing you for them. You just got to figure it out on your own. Your parents not around. You don't have buddies around. You're not kicking it about that. You just have to mature in these overburdening situations and developing them while you've got other things. A myriad of these things could happen to one kid, right? And they've got to figure it all out and then still be healthy, right? So like I said, it's easier to say what's probably not causing it than going through the list of what does. And I still hadn't hit on a whole bunch of things, but we have to pay attention to the fact that we've got a society that's full of absentee landlords. Right? We're here, we're paying bills or whatever, but we're not even paying attention to what's happening because we're engineered to just care about me.
Wow.
Even when we're parenting and doing a good job of parenting, that parent has to care about themselves to make sure they're putting food on the table. And that leaves the kid out, which is a terrible calculation, right? They're doing the best they can, and that leaves their kid out. It ostracizes their kid to some extent, right?
It's tough.
So we've got all these things, and as long as we keep ignoring them and just moving through life, then they're just going to keep multiplying. And it's why the school shootings haven't slowed, right? There's barely a week in American history now that you could point at that there wasn't a school shooting somewhere. School shooting. We're not talking about general mass murders. We're talking about school shootings.
Because of the amount of violence that we've experienced in this country through media and through news. Like, it's horrible to watch the news now.
Right.
I feel like people are becoming desensitized.
Absolutely.
Are we becoming desensitized to school shootings?
I don't think the word becoming fits. I think the only way that we can continue to allow them without some massive whole nation movement is because we've already been desensitized. And I'll tell you what I think is the cause of it. I was driving Uber like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Maybe 3, something like that. It was a while ago. And I walked into a store, I think it was a McDonald's, and a really, really young guy asked me to get him something to eat. He was homeless and he was struggling. He was a really young guy, though. If he was 25, I'd be shocked. He's a really, really young guy, and he was serious. This wasn't some ploy. You could see and feel everything in his aura that he was up against it. He was up against it.
Right.
And I went, I got him a Happy Meal or something. I got him some, not a Happy Meal. I got him some meal, some number something.
Yeah.
And I brought it out and I gave it to him, and his gratitude changed how I understood homelessness. Right. And so I started carrying around a case of water and socks in my trunk. If I ever came across some homeless people, I would give them whatever they would take from me. Sometimes they wouldn't, and sometimes they would. And the biggest response I got that was frequent was, "Thank you for seeing me."
Wow.
Right? Now, I realized why I wasn't seeing them. And why I wasn't seeing them is because I didn't think that in that moment, the little moment of engagement I could have with them, I couldn't do anything for their lives. And so I felt hopelessness in doing something for them. So to spare me all of that feeling, I would just continue on like they weren't there. And I think a lot of us are good people. I think a lot of us want better for everybody. I think maybe I'm naive, but I really think that in our heart of hearts, if you stop somebody in their meanness, if you stop them and talk to them about some painful thing for somebody, they'll feel that. I think humanity is innate. I think we've got a thing to connect with people, generally speaking. But that humanity turns on its head when you think you're hopeless. I am hopeless to help you. And that's not true.
Wow.
Every one of those interactions, I could see in their eyes when they received from me, there was a glow. And it wasn't because of them socks. It wasn't because of that water. It was because somebody said, hey, man, you're important enough for me to account for you right now.
Wow.
Right. And that shame that I overcame, that fear I overcame, that hopelessness that I overcame turned into something for that person for that moment. And that moment is enough for a lot of us in life, right? It's why when I say hello, I mean it. And I'm going to ask you something. Hey, how you doing? You all right? I'm going to let you know I mean it when I say it, because I might save you from killing somebody. I don't know what you're going through. We don't know what other people are going through, but that moment that you do that thing, that you reach out and you give them some of your humanity, can change a life and save some. You don't know, right? And it's the same thing for this situation. I think generally, for those of us who pay enough attention to even look at it, we feel that in our smallness of our life, in our little home, in our little town, we can't make the change that'll save people and prevent this whole thing. So we all, in our hopelessness, check out, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem. It's not that we don't care. It's that we're hopeless. And because we're hopeless, I wouldn't call it desensitized. I'd say we're defensive. We're defensive of how we feel about it. So we try and check out as fast as possible because we know that this terrible, awful thing that happened and makes us feel this ridiculous, ugly way is disempowering. We feel we can't do anything. We try to not deal with it. I'm just going to focus over here because I can't do anything with that
right now. Yeah.
And that's all of us. And so it just keeps going.
Yeah.
When the reverse is absolutely true. Any one of us that stands up to get another person, is how the world changes. It's always been that way. Wow. You look at any community leader, they didn't do anything by themselves, right? You look at the Black leaders, you look at Dr. Martin Luther King, you look at Malcolm X, you look at anybody that's ever made a movement, Mahatma Gandhi. It wasn't Gandhi by himself. It was how he moved a whole bunch of people to do the same thing to get a result.
And it was one by one.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's Father told me all the time, no matter how many frustrations you have or how many tests you got, the entire existence, everything in existence starts with one.
Yeah.
Just deal with one, remedy that, move to the second one. It's the only thing you can do anyway, right? And it's the same way everything that ever happens. If it starts with me and I'm the one who has a problem and I talk to you about it and you agree with me, then now we too have a problem. And the two of us could talk to some more ones. And by the time we're done with it, we can make an impact and make some changes.
Wow.
And that's what it takes, right? We have to be brave enough to stand up and say, I can't accept this thing. Somebody join me in not accepting this thing.
Wow. Man. It's possible.
Absolutely.
Absolutely possible. And when I listen to you, I'm like, that's how every change has been made.
Absolutely.
That's how every change has been made.
Yes, sir.
From that way.
You think about the things that we think were impossible at one point. We have cars. Crazier. Not only do we have airplanes, we are on the moon. We've been to the moon. We got something going to Mars right now.
Yeah.
We've got stuff.
Yeah.
Right? 100 years ago, these things are impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I thought was impossible in my lifetime. When I was a kid, so funny. When I was a kid, I watched this TV show called Buck Rogers, the 25th Century, right?
Okay.
I love that show, right? And it was this astronaut that went through a wormhole, wound up in the 25th century, right? He was this superhero mentality guy, which is really cool. But the nemesis was a queen of the bad guys.
Okay.
And he would talk to her all the time on this big, huge screen. They're looking at each other talking. Now, this is in the late 70s, early 80s.
Yes.
And as a kid, I thought it would be the greatest, most cool thing ever if we could look at people when we're talking to them. That'll never happen. And you know the funniest thing? The funniest thing about it is, unfortunately, no, I'll just move. Oh, yeah, no. I had a collision that should have taken my life, hands down. The kid hit us at 86 miles an hour, T-boned me.
Wow.
The car door, the driver car door speaker was facing upward in the middle of my steering wheel. That's how much he smashed right there where I was, right? Should have been dead. Well, while I'm sitting in the hospital and I come to and I'm super floating on morphine, I don't ever want to see that stuff again. I was on another planet.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in the hospital and I get to talk to my daughter because someone came to me with an iPhone with FaceTime. And I almost died right then, not from the accident, but then I could see my daughter and talk to her. I'd never heard of FaceTime.
Wow.
And immediately when I got an iPhone, as soon as I got out of there, the kids were all like, oh, FaceTime's annoying. It's amazing technology. What do you mean?
Yes.
And they're already on to something else.
Something else.
Right? I thought it was impossible in my lifetime.
Wow.
And now it's passe as breathing air.
It is.
Right?
Wow, you're right.
And so that exact same distance of reality is how we can get from here to schools being safe havens. I can't understand. I could never imagine one person who doesn't want that result.
Yeah.
And if we all want that result, then we can get together and do it.
So on top of that, this is where my frustration comes into play, because I am with you 100%. Should be something that everybody, not just parents, everybody,
every human
wants schools to be safe haven for children.
Right.
Not just our children, just children.
Right. Absolutely.
That they don't deserve this kind of life. They don't deserve this.
Of course not.
But now it's gotten to the point where when the political aspects get involved in it, it just makes it's for me, that's my frustration.
Yeah.
Like you said, we're not talking about anything.
Right.
We're just, this group don't want this to happen. They
Right.
want to keep the guns.
Right.
And this group is like, well, they just want it. I don't know what the argument is anymore.
Right.
It's so convoluted.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at but at the same time, it's still happening.
Yeah.
This stuff is still happening. So it's just the politics on it. You can speak to it. Please speak to it, because it's got to get out. But at this point, I feel like we as a people need to be like, you know, you got to go ahead and have your meetings, go and complain and go fight each other.
Right.
But this is something we have to do for our country.
Well, there are two things that are at the core of that problem, as I see it.
Okay.
One of them is money, and the other one is fear. Right.
Okay.
The money part is what's controlling the talking heads, the politicians, right? And because we are, because of what the free enterprise system is, money talks, right? If you give me enough money, I'll vote the line you want me to vote, right? That was not the design of the system at all, or at least in the verbiage of what the design of the system was. That's not it. Represent the people. Yeah. The people aren't being represented. The money is what's being represented. So real problems aren't even looked at. And I don't profess to be a genius. I'm not at all. I don't think I have some super exceptional calculative abilities, but every problem we face has a solution if we want to solve it. But that's not the aim. The aim isn't to solve problems. The aim financially, fiduciarily, is to separate groups. We got money, we will make sure they don't, right? And so there's not even a concern for remedying the issues. It just looks like it because that's the play that politicians make, right? See, I did something. I spent some money, but like I was saying earlier, there's not an aim at a solution. That's just a posturing point, right?
Right.
So the money is the problem. That we have people that aren't working for our best interests at all. And, you know, the part of that ploy is the opposite sides. I'm just going to oppose you because that way I'll get money. Well, I'll oppose you because that's how I get money. But nobody's looking at a problem. That's not even part of the conversation, right? That's one of them. The other half of that is fear on several levels, right? Some of it is the experiment that's fearful, that we are a collage of human beings with different cultures and all of that, right? And we're afraid for stereotypes have been fed into long time ago, right? They're not as overt or despicable now as they have been when I was growing up, but we are still human beings and we're led by human beings. And we learn some things organically from our parents that they don't even have to say to us. And until we find a way to supersede whatever fears we have of the next group of the other people, and we realize that we're all human beings. We're cool or we suck. And most of us are somewhere in the middle. When we can figure that out, then we can get past a lot of things, right? But our fear is that if we leave our comfort zones and learn something, something will damage us somehow, because that's the stuff that we've been fed one way or another. And as long as we're not together, we can't solve problems, right? That's also part of the money dynamic. The money dynamic is if they get together, they'll overthrow all this malarkey we're talking about and doing nothing because they can make real change. So let's just keep them apart with these foolish, minuscule, petty arguments that have no purpose or direction and help no one. Right. It is, we are in the same space with the frustration about our inability, our inept ability to move a real needle, to make a serious, real change that all of us agree on. But because of politics, they'll find the little bitty nugget in the minutia to have a fight over, and nothing will happen about the real issue. Right. And that's on us. That's, I think the third element of that is our pettiness, right? I was young. I was 21, 22, somewhere around there when reality TV became a thing. And I, at 20, saw that as the end of us. If in your life, you got all your tests and trials and your struggles and all of that, and your escape from it is to watch someone else's misery,
somebody else's trial,
we in trouble. We're in trouble.
That was bad. Yes.
So as an adult, if I play video games, I play Mario stuff, right? Because Mario's animated. Mario's fantasy. Mario is nothing close to reality because escape is the idea. I don't want to play some fighting game where dudes look for real and it's in the real city of San Diego. Why do the what's that?
The Grand Theft Auto.
Grand Theft Auto. It's the real city. It's got the real free. Why do
I want to be there?
Right? Why do I want those? I'm trying to escape stuff, right? But our escape became all these real, terrible, horrible, the worst of people, the gutters of people, these court shows that are fabricated. They've always got the worst of anything possible, right? Some despicable stuff they made up.
Me feel better about myself.
Well, it doesn't. Well, in reality, it can't. Right? Because you're still ingesting in your mind the worst of things. That betterment that you feel is momentary, but you are still processing in your mind garbage. And so what you have to kick out, just like the computers we designed after our minds, if you ingest a bunch of garbage, you're going to kick out garbage. And the garbage you're trying to escape, you're feeding more garbage. So your garbage become more garbage and you got a whole cycle of garbage. Right?
You're just producing more garbage.
Yeah. You just feel better about their garbage when you're listening to it, but you're adding to your garbage because now you've got more ammo to put in your garbage.
And I didn't deal with the things I was escaping from.
And there's no betterment in any of that. But the whole point of that is that our delight in that is the way media is aimed at us, right? And our delight with violence, just like gladiators back in the day, and unfortunately in American history, right? We have the bucks, right? We got black slaves that were put against each other to beat each other to death for entertainment, right? And not to go down that rabbit hole, but so were hangings. Lynchings were public because people took joy in someone's anguish and graphic pain and murder, right? Because the worst of us can be appealed to. It's what our median has become. That's why all we see, the overarching parts of media offerings are violent or sex filled because they play into the worst of us. And you see a news broadcast, they have some integrity to have at least one good story. Everything else is trash. Everything else is trash. But we got this one good thing, so you can't say you can't factually say everything is trash. But it's only one thing.
Right.
We got a cap on that. There's a quota, one good thing quota per broadcast.
Something stupid too, like a new dog has found a home today.
Right.
Like, what?
Right. 6 kids were murdered in a drive-by shooting. That's the very next story, though.
This is the very next story.
Right?
Yes.
And that's not to say that those things aren't news. But it's driven by what will catch our eye,
Mhm.
right? It's driven by what it is that we will support and
Yeah.
the things we support. Watch TV, you'll see what they offer. You know what we support because they're not putting it on there if they can't get viewers. That's how they make money, right?
Mhm.
It all circulates around
Yes.
money.
Yeah.
You and I had a conversation earlier about the era I grew up in. I'm a little older than you. But you had the same stuff.
Mhm.
We had morals to the story after the end of stuff. We had a after school special for kids that had a moral to it.
Yeah.
He-Man had a moral. G.I. Joe had a moral.
Yeah.
Fred and Wilma had twin beds.
Yeah.
Lucy and Desi Arnaz was Desi Arnaz. I can't remember his character name right now, but they had
Ricky.
Ricky Ricardo. They had twin beds. They were married,
Yeah.
but they were protecting us. Right, they were protecting us from the oversexing thing, right?
Yeah.
They were protecting us from bad stories. They were giving us moral things that weren't spiritually deep or challenging with
they were very
religious
simple.
stuff. They were just basic moral value
Yeah.
things.
I remember Will Smith telling me to stay away from strangers. And
Yeah.
it's like, doom, 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 and then the more
One
you
to
know,
grow on.
son.
That
Yeah, the one to grow on. That's what it was. One
the
to
more
grow
you
on.
know.
Yeah.
Right?
It was the simple things.
But there's no equivalent to that right now.
No, there isn't.
That's not happening for kids. We had stuff we could get into like Schoolhouse Rock, right? These
I remember
general
Schoolhouse
things to
Rock,
just
yeah.
build you,
Yeah.
right? And then the stuff with the hanka for hunka,
Yeah.
the silly little jingles that were between the cartoons, so you can understand some stuff. Don't eat a bunch, don't drown your food, right? They had
Yeah.
all these things that were trying to
Or how a
build.
bill becomes a law.
That's right.
I remember
right,
that.
Right.
I'll
That's
never
the
forget
Schoolhouse
that.
Rock stuff. That's the
I'll
rap.
never. I know today how a bill becomes a law.
Yeah, my favorite was the verb. I could do my thing
Yeah.
in action.
I remember that.
That's
Verb.
what's happening.
Yeah.
That stuff. But there's no equivalent for
No,
that
there
now.
isn't.
There's no equivalent to that now. These things that built our character, that built our persons. And I think the most powerful lessons in, I'm no psychological professional, but I think the most powerful lessons we have in life and existence are subliminal, right? When you get these seeds planted that you have no access to, they run your life.
Yeah.
Right. And if the subliminal seeds that are planted are be good, right? That's what those things were telling us. Even if we didn't get the minutia of the thing, we got the gist of it.
Yes.
Be good, be smart, be kind to people.
Yeah.
And this was hammered in our head all day, every day. And this thing, that thing, whether it was regular TV shows or cartoons or whatever it was, the constant message was be good, be decent, be smart.
Yeah.
Right. We had these subliminal messages
Yeah.
that help our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
Say no to drugs.
That's right. Frequent, right?
all
And
the
we didn't
time.
have to dig. We didn't have to dig to find those things. They were in our subconscious driving us the whole time. If you don't even have this offering, much less a subliminal heartbeat, feeding you these positive things, these constructive perspectives and principles, if you're not getting that, instead is replaced by sexing stuff and naked Victoria's Secret models or whoever else it is all the time, and James Bond and whatever woman he could get this week.
Yeah.
And you got John Wick killing people all the time, or
Yeah.
somebody else killing people all the time. And this is just your inundation constantly. You got these social media things that become more and more sexual. Like every girl with even loose morals has a OnlyFans page,
Yeah.
right? Everybody want to make money selling their bodies.
Yeah.
Right? This is the younger, they're getting younger and younger as they go, because the OnlyFans making money isn't searching and hunting and making sure that you are 18,
Yeah.
right? These girls
No.
are 15, 16, 17,
Yeah.
making money. This constant drubbing of character destroying things goes somewhere. Just like those good things went somewhere, these bad things are going somewhere.
Wow.
These kids are being built on these principles,
Yeah.
right? And when you get enough of these very terrible, traumatic, alienating, hurtful things added up to one child, sooner or later, some of them crack. And this is the condition, this hodgepodge, this stew that we keep throwing them in, basically either tempting them or radicalizing them. Sooner or later, it takes root.
Right.
And until we see the entire thing for what it is, until we see the entire urge of how we live as a country and what direction it pushes us all, we're going to be inept to do anything about changing that direction.
Yeah. Wow. So when it comes down to the film, because now we're talking about media and
Right.
what they're driving. We can talk about that forever, because I even have add stuff to it, like noticing to add on to the violence and the sex and all that other stuff. Now we're erasing the line between good and evil.
Right.
Now we make films about the bad guy, and we sell the film about the bad guy, and people just, ooh, the bad guy, the joke, when they made the Joker film, and when they made even this Black Adam movie, which was a joke.
Yeah.
But that now we're rooting for the bad guy, where the bad guy has a redeeming quality of, I don't know what it would be.
Yeah.
But now they're erasing just the line there. So
here's a couple places where that was uniquely, screamingly loud for me.
Okay.
The Avengers whole Infinity War thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thanos had an admirable aim, period.
Yes.
He want to make sure that everybody can have what they need.
Yes.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
He's trying to destroy half of existence.
Right.
But the premise, you can kind of vibe with that.
You listen to him, you like, he makes a lot of sense. Why does he make sense?
Yeah.
It's scary.
So I'm not mad at him.
Mhm.
He's not the bad guy, actually. He's just got a bad way of doing what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
I empathize with him. He's all right.
Right.
He needs to think of another way to do what he wants to do. In fact, why don't he simply double everything so we're all good instead of halving people, right? You got the Infinity Stones, you could double existence, right?
Yeah.
But you're not mad at him, right? Because he's got a point.
Yeah.
For me, because I'm a black man who understands who we are and what the world's been, Killmonger is the same way. Killmonger has some points. Bruh. Killmonger has some points. But he wanted to go destroy everybody. And all right, maybe you might be going a little far.
Yeah.
But I can absolutely empathize with where you're coming from, with what the fate of black people has been and how that could be changed with you and all this wealth y'all got that you're sharing with nobody.
Yeah.
You can empower us by being together. We can do. He makes all sense in the world. I don't hate that guy.
Yeah.
So now we got these blurry lines, right? To go along with that, our times. We got political people who lie so much. The lines are so blurred. We have no idea what the truth is.
Yeah.
We've got the expediency of, I'll call it media, because everybody can make any. Everybody can make any.
Yeah.
They could not have ever graduated or passed a class in any school anywhere, and they could have a podcast forever as an expert on a thing they don't know a doggone thing about. They hadn't left their town in their lifetime, right? And they could lead a whole mass of people to understand some crazy cockamamie thing, because sadly, we as American, as humans, we want to belong somewhere. So if we can click with somebody on some idea, we might follow you into a black hole and die with you. Just so we belong somewhere, because we all live, the bulk of us live a lonely life, right? Now, those statistics are real. We won't get into them, but most of us are living a lonely life. We want to be acknowledged by somebody. We want to be connected to something. So we'll even connect to garbage as long as we're in it together. And we've got these voices everywhere saying whatever the heck. You have no idea what up is, down is, crooked, sideways. Even the lies have some support, 2 or 3 different sources. You're just lost. You're confused. And so to go along with that, we've got heroes, villains that we can't even villainize. And so with no line drawn, all we have is confusion. And you go add that to all those other things we talked about, especially in children's minds who don't fully develop till they're around 25 years old for the average. They got to handle all this and process it and become good people. How do you do that of your own accord? Because largely you're by yourself. Even kids at home with parents, they're not home with parents. They're home at the same time as parents, right? They're in their room, locked up on their computer. Or their phone, or the iPad. What's the name for it? The tablets. Yeah, whatever that is. You're in your own dimension, figuring out stuff on your own. And it's a serious test for our society. And until we slow down and realize, so I have a superhero I wrote. It's a film called Khalif, Zulu Warrior King, right? I wrote it because, candidly, I won't take it down the rabbit hole too far, but I wrote it candidly because when I grew up, my heroes were, aside from my father, who's the most amazing human being I know, my heroes were Spider-Man and Thor and Wolverine. Spidey, because he was so flexible.
Mhm.
Whatever it was that was happening, he figured something out. I
Yeah.
dug him for that.
Yeah.
Wolverine, because he was vicious. I was a kid.
Yeah.
Give me a break. And Thor, because he was so tough. He was so manly. He talked so much trash.
Yeah.
If he was getting his butt kicked, he's still
He's
talking,
still talking
trash.
trash,
I
yeah.
will smite thee. It don't even matter. He's
Yeah.
still talking. It was super entertaining.
Mhm.
But as I became cognizant of my blackness, I grew up in Detroit, an 86% black city when I left it in 1989.
Mhm.
When I went to college in Knoxville, where the black population was like 11%,
Ooh, that's a big drop off.
right?
Yeah.
And I first experienced racism, all that yada yada. I got a lesson on me.
Mhm.
I had a problem with every person I identified with as being a hero as a white guy. And that's because that's what society basically was. All the media offerings were that, right?
Mhm.
So I wrote Khalif, Zulu Warrior King, based off the most impactful black figure I had ever seen, public figure I'd ever seen at that time, which is a story on Shaka Zulu.
Okay.
And so it's based on him, but I've got a dimensional thing. It's called Infiniverse. And in his Infiniline, another Infiniverse, he's a king called Nadu Malezi, which means Shaka means bastard. Nadu Malezi means he who when he puts his foot on the ground makes the earth move.
Ooh.
It's a powerful story. In that story, the entire continent of Africa is one country
Mhm.
called Al-Kabulan,
Mhm.
right? They unified because of Nadu Malezi. And their quote is, "The strength of all of us begins with the strength in one of us."
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's the reality of life.
Wow.
When we all do well, we all do well.
Mhm.
When we figure that out, when we back up enough, when we slow down enough to realize that me investing in you doing great is great for me. Crime isn't for people who were born and said, you know what, when I grow up, I want to be a gangbanger and sell drugs and
Yeah.
shoot some people.
Right.
That's not how that works. That's
No.
not a dream goal for anybody.
Mhm.
You want to have some career of some sort or other. And the more people that we competently build, competently train to have great careers, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah.
The less crime we'll have, right?
Mhm.
The less disparity we'll have, right? The
Mhm.
less health problems we'll have, right? Everything lifts up and every burden for each of us lessens,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
When we get that, when we stop the narcissism that is ingrained in us in a free enterprise system, we figure out that when everything works for all of us benefit from it,
Mhm.
and we work toward that in some earnest,
Yeah.
we'll have a better everything.
Mhm.
And that's what we need. It's just we have to get over truly what it is, cognitive dissonance, that our programming is you.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
I gotta be number one in this class. I gotta be number one with my grades. I gotta have this great score so I can get college. I gotta be number one in college so I can get this great job.
Mhm.
I gotta be the best one out of law school
Yeah.
so I can get this firm. I gotta be number one so that sooner or later I could be this politician. Number one, me.
Yeah.
If we can get out of that and understand that the strength of all of us begins with the strength of one of us, we'll have a better existence.
Wow.
Period.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So the film is coming. You have a screen for the film December 10th. What kind of feedback are you getting from the film? What kind of conversations are you having?
I haven't talked to one person that in all reality I felt genuinely was awed by the thing. And
Mhm.
again, I don't think it's because it's such a great writing. It is great acting though. We have the amazing James Reynolds
Mhm.
himself. He's the 40-year veteran
Yeah.
of Days of Our Lives, right?
Yeah.
Amazing guy.
Wow.
Armani Barrett, he's from the Nickelodeon's I Am Frankie, right?
Yeah.
We've got some incredible talent. They laid their hearts and souls out. Jake Golden plays Billy.
Mhm.
I love that he was so amazing and electric and so disciplined on set. He's just an amazing guy. He plays Billy Jansen. Leroy Barrett plays Draco Vicious. All right, I'm gonna tell you the truth.
Okay.
He's the bully guy,
Mhm.
and Draco Vicious is kind of far for a name. Like
Yeah.
it's Vishes. That doesn't make it better, but but he I don't want to use that term. I was gonna say he murders it. It's really bad too. He does a spectacular job. He is beyond convincing, and he's so emotional that it translates, right?
Wow.
So I've had people Okay, candidly, I'm gonna share with you. We've got some work on getting the feature. We're in the process right now, working on the budget, all that good stuff. And there's a team in Atlanta that's really interested. They were allowed to see the short. It's 39 minutes. And they were like, okay, so what these executives ended with? Okay, so what are we doing? We distributing this thing or what? As if it were a full feature film.
Wow. That's
Like
awesome.
this thing is not is not the finished story, but they were that motivated by which I'm elevated by that. I'm really blown away.
I'm extremely excited to see it.
Yeah.
I'm be there.
Yeah, come on through.
I'm coming through,
Come on
man.
through.
I'm excited to be there, man.
Yeah.
And so people, let's say people are watching this and they're listening. They want to support. They want to, follow. What can they do? What can they do to support this project moving forward? Because this is something that has to get out.
Yeah.
This is something that people need to have, and the conversations that people need to have. Listen, the conversations you guys need to have after watching this film are extremely important. We have for every 100 movies that we have, like John Wick,
Right.
we don't have enough films like this.
I agree.
We don't have enough films like this, and they're there. We just gotta search for them.
Yeah.
This is why the podcasts like this to me are important.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
There's a lot of voices and there's a lot of artists who have these incredible projects like yours.
Yeah.
And people need to know about it. So what is somebody who says, I want to undergird either with prayer or sharing the word, getting the word out? How can I get a hold of that?
First, prayer is universal. It works at all times.
Yeah.
My name, Leroy Barrett.
Yeah.
The name of the production is Dying to Learn. And any of us that are connected with it, we take all prayers. They all work. They all matter.
Yeah.
Candidly, the purpose of this project isn't for some fiduciary gain or some esteem. The reason why we're doing the feature is so we can have access to give the message to people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
It is without a doubt a movement. That's the entire plan. And I need to make sure that's clear. Right now, I don't have a conduit to come to directly, with the exception of the Dying to Learn social media platforms or mine. In any way that you can help, we'll take it, because we need it all.
Yeah.
The weakest arena for our production is marketing. So if you are a marketer in any sort, you got a thing where you love social media and you want to do something that matters, we need you. I can't say that more emphatically.
Yes.
We need you. So reach out to us at Dying to Learn Movie on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And my name's Leroy J. Barrett III. You can reach me on all those platforms under the same name, Leroy J. Barrett. We need marketing sorely.
We'll have links in the description here on the YouTube page.
Terrific. We have had some offers so far to take the film places and have a conversation. We screened it and had a panel in Inglewood, California in April.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it was powerful. We had a sitting congressman on the panel. We had educational professional from NorCal come sit on the panel, and we have some kids on the panel, because that's who we're talking about. We need their voices.
Yeah.
It is a matter of inclusion. It is a thing that we all need to do. We all need to work on to make the change for all of us. But as we move forward, first, if we can bring the film to any place that you are and share it with your community, along with everybody that can make a change, which is all of us. But I mean, particularly the professions, whether there's some politician in your area or some educational professionals in your area, or anybody's moving to keep our kids safe and prevent violence. We want to be wherever you are. We want to help spread the message wherever you are. We want to help activate, help to inspire whatever you have going, however you're fighting this fight. The best thing we could do is get together about it. So please message me, send something to me. I am completely open with my cell phone. I have no fear talking to anybody. Call me. Please reach out to us any way that we can help you. We want to, because it's going to take all of us to get some progress.
I agree. And this is not one of those issues that we can no longer go, somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah.
We can't do that. We've done that with too many things. And we've done this too often here too. This is somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
I'm concerned, but we need leadership. Well,
lead.
Exactly.
Lead. the greatest empowerment, my father taught me as a kid. My father told me a lot of lessons that confused the crap out of me when I was little.
When you get older, though, you're like, that's what he meant.
That's right. He's
Yeah.
still teaching me now. He
Yeah.
Unfortunately passed in 2000. He's still teaching me now. And he told me that the only way you ever make change, the only way you have empowerment is through ownership. It doesn't matter what someone else did. Until you own it, you can't do anything about it. If it's somebody else's fault, then somebody else can change it. You don't even have the power to change it. So you just got to suffer the thing that you really don't like if it's somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
You can't change something that's somebody else's fault, right?
Wow.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be your fault for you to take the onus. But literally, your empowerment starts with your accountability. What can I do? That's when you're empowered. Until then and before then, you're a victim somehow.
Wow.
So take the ownership and do something. If you see the problem, stand up, do something about it.
Yeah.
The more of us to do that, the more change we make.
Amen. I appreciate you, bro.
Oh,
I'm so
thank
glad you came out,
so much
man.
for having me. It's so good to see you
Good
again.
to see you too, man.
So good to see you.
And I'm
again.
looking forward to December 10th, man. It's
Right
gonna be great, man. I'm trying to bring some homies with me too.
I just have to spill the beans to your listeners.
Okay.
So he tried to gloss over how we met. I need to let y'all know what the real deal is. All right.
Oh no. Oh no. I was hoping it wasn't gonna come out, but hey, let's go there. Let's go there. It's
So
happening.
we were doing a music video very akin to this very topic.
Oh yeah.
Literally, the song was about bullying, right?
Yes.
And Caden Banker Morgan, you can
Yeah.
find it on YouTube right now. His song is called "Healing Helps," right?
Yes.
And I directed
You
the music
directed it.
video.
You directed it.
Yeah, yeah. And our idea was a storyline because it's a story topic.
It
right?
is.
So
Yeah.
we made a storyline of this kid who gets bullied all the time, and the guy that he sees all the time that he's afraid of just because he sees him because he's made some assumptions is the one person that cares about him and will help him. Now, here's where the kicker is. This is a high school story. These kids were,
Yes.
I think the oldest of them might have been one kid who was 18 or 19. The rest of them were like mid-teens, 15, 16,
14.
something.
There's
Yeah,
some young ones in there,
really
too.
young kids. Caden, I think, was 13 or 14
was.
himself, right?
Yes.
And Ramon had to play this high school kid because I needed size. I needed the intimidation. Man, if you split his age in half at the time,
It still wasn't in there.
he still wouldn't have been a high schooler.
You know my age, I'm still in college.
So I think he did shave for it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he looked like he was on his way to being
I was
somebody's
the dumbest
grandfather.
kid in that school because I've done at least 8 years at that
Right.
school.
He was a career senior, right? He had to be if it was true to the game. But it worked. It worked magically. Just when he showed up, the kid would go the other way.
Yeah.
Because that dude's big.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what he was thinking was, man, this dude been in high school a long
I
time.
want to deal with him. He drove himself here.
he got kids.
The funniest scene in that video is the lunch scene where I'm sat at a table, and you sat me next to like the youngest person on set. She had to be like 11, and I'm like, so we in the same math class or what?
It was so terrible, but it was a beautiful thing, and he was a marvelous sport for doing it.
Oh, it was fun.
Check that out because
Yes.
it's really fun. Well, it's a terrible topic, but you'll have fun with the video now because
Yeah.
you know some of the backstory.
Yeah,
But
that
I
was a
thank
great
you,
time.
truly thank you, humbly thank you
Yeah.
for having me here. This is
Thank
very
you.
important.
Thank you. I think you gotta come back.
Yeah,
I'll have you definitely come back,
I'm all for it.
especially with all the accolades and stuff that's following the story
Yeah,
in your film.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even get to that too much.
that's true.
So
That's true.
So after the season of the independent festivals, which is like normally in the first of the year, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
So
Most of them are done like March or April.
Yeah, we'll bring you back around then, and we'll talk about it again because
I'm just gonna tell you, right now, I'm not gonna promise you that we'll have any conversation about that because I don't care about accolades. This
Yeah.
is not for me.
Yeah.
This is about making a change. And we could talk about them. Of course, they happen, and that's cool,
Yeah.
but this is not what it's for.
Mhm.
It's not what it's for. I really have, man, saying out loud that kids are dying in schools still grips me. I still have to fight tears every time I say those words together
Mhm.
because that should not be real.
Yeah.
Should not be real. And we cannot allow ourselves
Yeah.
to accept that. We cannot allow ourselves to glaze over it. We can't allow ourselves to be desensitized to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So but we'll talk.
Yeah,
For
for sure.
you, brother, I'll be back here.
All right.
Period.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
No problem.
All right, everybody, you know where to find us, heritageparkprod.com. Black Friday sale begins next week. Get all your gear, all your Christmas gifts you can get settled here. We got a 30% off sale going on. Starts next Black Friday. Again, thank you again for coming down here, all the way up here from San Diego.
No
And
problem.
I'll talk to y'all next week, all right? God bless y'all. Have a good night. Take care. Peace.